Hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
Good.
We'll wait for a couple minutes. Hopefully, I think Lindy isn't able to join today, but wait for Katie and Liz to see. How are things? How's the program going for you?
I really like the program. It's helpful. I just like to have these conversations, with other people, get some ideas,
Yes.
and then just know that, yes, I'm doing the right thing. Yes, I'm,
Hmm.
eating most of the foods that I should be eating. And I last weekend I did exercise a lot more, and we had
Oh,
snow
awesome.
day. We had a snow
Yes,
day
you
last
did.
Friday, and I'm like, okay, there's no excuse. Like, I have the time. I need to prioritize, and I need to. So we took my 8-year-old to Camel's Park to play in
Yeah.
the snow,
Oh, yeah.
and then we hiked up. We went up the hill,
Hmm.
and I'm still a little bit sore, but but I'm like, there's
Good.
no excuse. I'm getting this extra day, and yeah.
An unexpected time just popped in your lap.
Yes. Yes.
That's wonderful. Good, good. Well, my daughter is practicing her bass in the living room. I don't know if you will be able to hear her or
Well,
not. She's got a concert tonight, so she's like, I gotta practice, but I think we'll be okay. I don't know
yes,
if it should be
yes.
true.
And we at my school we just started the CLC. It's every Tuesday from 3:15 to 4 p.m. And I'm like, so Tuesdays are like my busy, busy days.
So what is it again?
It's a CLC. It's kind of like it's a mandatory training or class, and our topic is we're doing a book study,
Oh,
and it's just to improve and learn more and learn with our colleagues.
yeah.
And we're reading this book. um, it's this The
The Anxious
Anxious
Generation. Oh, that's
Generation.
great.
And
Totally
so
writing that book down. Or
it's very helpful as a teacher and as a parent, with
yes.
just what's going on with technology. And I'm like, sometimes um, we're assigned to read a book, and I'm like, well, it's just so hard. It's painful. But this one, like, it's very interesting, and I'm like, yes, I
Oh,
see
good.
this. And it's just studies on how technology is affecting
Yeah.
mainly the kids, mainly, children. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Fabulous. Love it.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna check my email really quick to
Okay.
see if anybody else has emailed about, because I don't want to wait us to wait if we're not.
Hmm.
Okay. Nobody's emailed. I'll give them 2 more minutes and then we'll just move
Yeah.
along. And then if they join, so I think you mentioned you live pretty close to school, so it's pretty nice that you can just like jot home really quick. And are you a big
Yes.
painter? You look like you have all these beautiful things on your walls.
No, no, it's just I'm like just looking for like a theme for my living room, and then I
Oh,
found these big paintings of flowers. So it's my theme is
oh,
like flowers. And
nice.
um yeah, yeah, so but I don't paint.
Well, I am also looking for a theme for like, we just redid our kitchen area, and so now we need to bring in color. And I'm like, we need some artwork that's like got some oomph to it, so
Yeah.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, I'm not creative, so I'm like, okay, this looks
Mm,
good. Okay,
yes,
yep,
I am
yep.
not
I'm like,
either.
it has flowers. Yep, it will fit.
Exactly. You have a beautiful um like angles to your ceiling and everything. It's gorgeous and lots of light.
Yes, we have a lot of windows
Yeah,
all
that's great.
around. Yeah.
That's very nice. Oh, that's great.
Windows.
Really great. Well, let's get rolling and if other people
Okay.
join us. So I think that last week when we had talked a lot about meal planning, you felt like, you've been doing this pretty well. So the things, was there anything that we discussed last week that you kind of switched up and changed, for this week? Did you?
Not really. My daughter helps me cook on some days.
Wonderful.
She's 21 now,
Oh,
and
okay.
so everybody helps out. And I gave my 23-year-old some days too, but most of the time he's not here, so he, you know. um, but my daughter likes to cook like ground beef, turkey ground beef,
Mhm.
and then she'll use half of that and cook spaghetti, and the other half will make like crunchy tacos or burritos with it. And then we like to cook, like to have food for at least 2 days.
Wonderful.
That way we're not cooking every day. And
Great.
I think what we're doing is working. And then I always like to cook like chicken fajitas with bell
Hmm.
peppers.
Hmm.
Um, I like to cook that once a week,
Okay.
and it's healthy, and I can, eat it with rice or make burritos, or,
Yes.
just to change it a little bit. But yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Well, you are segueing perfectly into the topic of today. So that was like just perfect. Okay. Um, so we're talking today about extending kind of the topic of last week of the meal planning. Actually, just today, I read an article that talked about how meal planning is like the key to health. Like, and it was like in a research article that was talking about how beneficial that was, and without meal planning, people really their health really suffered. So we're just going to segue to the next focus of that, which is meal prepping. And all those things that you just talked about are perfect. They're great. They're just going to be adding. We're going to add more to that, and then also about where you find your recipes and like where you get ideas from and things like that. And we just know that like time is limited, right? So we want to be efficient with things and strategize how is the best. I love your idea of including kids that are older that can help out, just kind of creating efficiencies and intentions from your meal planning and making sure that what you bought gets utilized and getting kind of further along that. So you mentioned a couple of them. And do you want to do polls this week? Because you're the only one right now. So it's
So
totally fine if we do polls.
no,
If
I think we can just talk about it maybe.
Yeah, yeah. So you had talked about like kind of your staple items or things that make it efficient. So you had talked about you cook the meat and use it in multiple meals. You
Mhm.
create enough food to go for 2 days. Um, you also kind of had some like staple things that I think would probably identify as being fairly quick to kind of prep and get ready for an evening. Additional things that could be helpful are cutting up stuff ahead of time, right? Or like marinating your meat or cooking grains ahead of time so that they just require a quick heat up. And then there's also like foil packs. I don't know if you've ever seen foil packs before, where you like put food in, and a lot of times it's like vegetables and meat, potatoes, that kind of thing, and you put them in like kind of an envelope of foil, and then they're just ready to go, and then you can just stick them in the oven. Some people like do that when they're camping and they just put them in the coals, right? And so
Mhm.
that's also something. And then some people do, there's this service at Albertsons called Citrus Pear. Have you ever heard of it before?
Mm-mm.
So Citrus Pear is like they provide all the food and the recipes and everything. And you go in and you say, I would like to prepare X number of servings for X number of meals. And then you just kind of cut up the stuff and then you stick them in bags to feed for however many people you're going to do. And so you kind of have freezer meals available. So everything's seasoned. You have all the food cut up, you have all the stuff prepared, and you're just baking it or cooking it on the stovetop or whatever. So citrus pear is something that is an option. And then there's like the meal kit things, like Factor 5 or Hello Fresh or other things like that. So those are, meals that are sent to your home that are, all the ingredients are there. Sometimes they're just like heat up meals, and sometimes they are the ingredients are there, but you just have to quickly cook it. So those
Mhm.
are all kind of different options. Aside from just kind of like cooking yourself, have you tried anything else?
No, I would say I have been doing this same thing for years, and then now that my
Yeah.
daughter can help some days too, depending on what I'm cooking. Sometimes, like on my daughter's day, I'll say, okay, I'm gonna maybe cook a soup or something, and she'll help me cut the veggies on her day, and then that way I get home and I just put everything together.
Perfect. You got yourself a sous chef. Um, do you look for new recipes at all, or kind of go on standby, things that you've utilized kind of, do you have places that you look for recipes?
Um, I no, not really. Like I started with cooking of course, the foods that my mom
Mm-hmm.
cooks.
Yep.
And then from there, talking to friends and, getting their
Yeah.
recipes and adding more to my, what do I want to call it? To my,
Repertoire or something like
yes,
yes.
yes. And then, yeah, just getting some from friends here and there, trying new things. Like I don't like seafood.
Okay.
And so the only seafood I will eat is, like tuna.
Yeah.
And actually, I've been eating tuna almost every day. Actually, I took some for lunch today.
Nice.
And that's something quick. You just open the can, throw in everything
Absolutely.
together. And then I will eat grilled shrimp.
Okay.
But that's it. But like the other day, I was eating tuna. I think it was yesterday, actually, because I took a personal day yesterday. And I was eating tuna, and I had the mayo, a little bit of mayo, pepper, and spinach, and like my five senses are not that great, but like all of a sudden I got that strong, like I'm like, "Ooh," like I don't know if I can eat this, but then I start eating, with crackers, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. Yeah, so but because I know I need some omega
Yeah.
threes.
Yeah. Good. So it sounds like you get a lot of your ideas for new foods from friends and stuff like that and
Mhm.
talking with them. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, and even like social media can be a great place if you find somebody you kind of like their recipes and stuff and you start following them. And we'll go through a few ideas that this may be um, you might come up. So, how about busy nights? It sounds like your daughter helps a lot with like doing some food prep and stuff so you can put together. Um, is there ever a time where you kind of feel like you rely on maybe like eating out or something like that out of convenience because you don't have enough time or
It's just mainly on the weekends because,
okay.
yeah, I used to try to cook almost like the 7 days, and then I told my husband, you know what, I'm working full time and you're working
Mhm.
full time, and so now we need to share. the jobs, the chores and everything. And I'm like, okay, Saturday and Sunday, those are your days. So if you choose not to cook, then we're going out to eat. So sometimes he'll cook like breakfast Saturday and Sunday. But sometimes he's like, let's go. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, okay. But like, cause I'm like exhausted because I'm still like grading
Oh, sure.
papers
Yeah.
Saturdays and Sundays. I'm grading papers. I'm like, there's just a lot to do.
Yep. I think it's very fair that you only make him do 2 days a week. That's overly kind. Um, so it sounds like you have a pretty good kind of bucket of kind of some quick meals and you are pretty planned out and it's him that isn't as planned out and
Mhm.
you're just like, I need a break.
Yes.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
great. Okay. Um, and then the examples of like some blogs and stuff that I follow or some social media people. I don't know how much you use social media or not, but like on Instagram, there's easy meal prep recipes. That's kind of a one. Love and Lemons. They have fabulous recipes, and the ones that I'm sharing today are vegetarian mostly, and sometimes even vegan. And so, if you want to add in your own meat or an animal-based food, then you just kind of add that into the dish. Cookie and Kate is another great one, and Minimalist Baker. So those are all ones that I really, really enjoy. Super tasty. That's my key. It's gotta taste good, right? That's a big, big thing for me. So just looking out there for different options and different ideas. Um, so the first thing I'm gonna pull up, I'm gonna share here is your smoothie recipe here from the packet. Do you like smoothies?
I do, but I mainly just go buy one.
Okay.
Um, so the closest thing is just my yogurt parfaits.
Okay. Yeah. And so the benefit, some people, this is a very quick, convenient meal that they can do that's packed full of nutrients, right? These examples here are vegan because they just choose not to have, but you could add like Greek yogurt or cottage cheese or something like that to it if you wanted to add a little bit more. Um, but this gives you a lot of nutrients. The challenge with the ones when you eat out is there's often a lot of sugar added to them. And so they look really healthy, right? Because they do have lots of things added to them. But they also have a lot of sugar often added to them. And so that's the thing that's a little bit challenging when you eat out, right? Like it's very, very convenient, but I lose control. And so, looking at the smoothie recipe, we want to like pick one item with the serving size of each of these ingredients. So it's a leafy green and or other vegetables, fruits to add a little bit of sweetness in there. A protein source. Again, this is vegetarian protein sources, but you could add like Greek yogurt or cottage cheese if you wanted to something that was had from an animal product. Some fat and fiber, so nuts and seeds or avocados are good options. Just a little nutritional boosters. So that might be some herbs or spices like turmeric or ginger. It could also be some seasonings like cinnamon. Dates add sweetness without any added sugar. And then there's also liquid of some sort, right? To get it to blend up together. So those are all good kind of ways. Again, it can be very, very quick. And it does, give you a lot of control. So this can be kind of like an option of a meal that, maybe all the kids are gone and your husband's, doing his own thing or whatever. And you're like, oh, here, this is pretty fast and convenient, right? Again, it's just
Mhm.
having a little bit of those ingredients on hand. So if you know ahead of time. So.
Yeah, if I buy a smoothie, usually I go to like Whole Foods
Mm-hmm.
and I order like the green, what is
Mm-hmm.
it called? Green something, Green
Mm-hmm.
Monsters.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I
I
think
have.
it, yeah, in the past, I think I kind of told myself, yes, I'm gonna start making them, and then I started with like a carrot smoothie, and then from there, then I don't know, maybe time and
Sure.
I don't know, you know.
So Green Monster, you called it?
Hmm. It was called something greens.
Yeah, Big Green Monster.
Yes.
Yep. So it looks like at least this one. So it's from Whole Foods. It's pretty, it's got almond, rice, or soy milk. Is that what the options you have?
Yes.
Yeah. And then dates or apricots, a banana, kale, spinach, and berries.
Hmm.
That was pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good job. That's a rarity. Okay. So then the next one I wanted to show you was protein bowls. And this, especially if people are kind of like, I don't know where to start. This is a super great way to create variety, but be really efficient. Bowls are just kind of nice ways to kind of add variety in there because you just, again, just like the smoothie, you pick one ingredient from each of the categories, so you get all kind of those nutritional boosts that we're looking for, but you can change up the sauces and you can change up the different flavors of things. And so it really kind of add a lot of variety, but it can be very efficient, right? To
Hmm.
kind of do that. So that's also another really nice one. And the example, the thing that I have below, is kind of creating your own bowls from the ingredients that are listed above here. And would your family eat a protein bowl?
I think the closest I can think of is like when I make fried rice,
Okay.
kind of like, and then, you know, we add some chicken,
Yeah.
rice.
Yep. Yeah. So that's a good example, right? So like a fried rice, you're like, okay, my grain is my rice right here, right? And then
Hmm.
I'm gonna add in a leafy green to that fried rice, right? And then I'm
Hmm.
gonna add some kind of protein into it. And then I'm going to add more vegetables, right? So your fried rice is often not as heavy in vegetable content as where we want to try to pack more vegetables in there. And then some kind of nutritional boost. And this is for a lot of flavor. It could be for textures. It could be for um, um, like herbs and stuff like that that kind of add a little bit. And then a sauce on it, right? So like it's soy sauce when it comes to fried rice.
Hmm.
A cantina bowl, if you've ever kind of had a cantina bowl, that's a similar type of thing where you just, you've got your rice and beans and, veggies and salsa and all that stuff on top of it. You could make it Mediterranean style, right? With adding a couple of different grains, and then put olives in there and put chickpeas and cucumbers and tomatoes, and kind of have feta cheese, that kind of stuff. So there's lots and lots of different options, but this the activity I have below might be something for you and your family to kind of do together, to say like, okay, could we pick out, different varieties of this, 4 different varieties of this that we could try, right? So again, just
Hmm.
broadening horizons a little bit. And
Hmm.
then the next thing I wanted to show you was, have you ever used ChatGPT before?
No.
Okay. So ChatGPT is like collecting all information from all aspects of the internet, right? So it's just kind of putting everything in one little place. So I asked ChatGPT, make me a weekly menu, including 3 meals and 2 snacks, with a grocery list for a family of 3 who eat a pesco ovo vegetarian eating way. So pesco ovo is like your um, eggs as well as fishes, right? And so one of my coworkers did this, and I was like, "Holy cow, look at that!" So it's kind of nice because it broke down and it gave me a breakfast, a snack, a lunch, a snack, and a dinner.
Uh-huh.
And so it kind of, a veggie scramble with eggs, spinach, mushrooms, and feta, Greek yogurt with honey and almonds. It's kind of like your parfait, right?
Mm-hmm.
A chickpea salad. And it was kind of like a Mediterranean salad. Apple slices with peanut butter, baked salmon with roasted sweet potatoes and steamed broccoli. So it went through every single day and it gave me, there's your fajitas that, that you were mentioning before. But it went through every single day and gave me a menu. And then it also gave me a grocery list, right? And so these are like convenient, easy ways to utilize things that are super fast and
Mm-hmm.
efficient ways of kind of doing things. And I know you're pretty practiced at this, so which is awesome. But just like adding new things can be super helpful. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
okay. So then the next thing I wanted to talk about is like staple items. Um, Tell me, because staple items are kind of they're for when your husband doesn't know, like, have a plan to cook and like, what do we have around? What could we cook, right? And we want to have those staple items for those times when um, we're just kind of like not really practiced or planned to have a meal at home. Um, we're going to talk about eating out in just a few minutes, but like the idea of eating out and trying to minimize that for a lot of different reasons, but especially for health reasons. So tell me like what kind of grains that are staple for you that you have in your home.
Grains like the brown rice,
Yeah, yeah,
like the brown rice. I try to eat more brown rice than the white. But if I'm gonna make like um the stir fry,
yeah, yeah.
then I need the white rice, and then so it depends. But I mainly
Okay.
try to cook some brown rice.
Yeah.
For grains, um, we use the Quaker oats.
Hmm.
I my teens mainly eat that like
Yeah.
for breakfast, and my
Okay.
husband, and then they add well, my husband will add like fruit to that, and but my 2 older ones, they like to make kind of like a protein shake and then
Oh,
add
yeah.
some of it. Hmm.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It really thickens it up well, like in a
Hmm.
blender. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I like to think of staple items as just kind of like I know it's there, and so I kind of assess each week, oh, do I need to refill this item? It's
Hmm.
something we use pretty often. Do I
Hmm.
need to refill it so I don't have to stress out about it being there or not every week, right?
Hmm.
So more options might be some pasta, right? So if families eat pasta at all, they might have a chickpea pasta, there's red lentil pasta, there's whole wheat pasta, and then there's just kind of the standard white pasta. And if you're mixing it up, right, like we're looking at the big picture, not all of our grains are going to be whole grains, but
Hmm.
eating more of them is really
Hmm.
great to kind of incorporate more nutrients into your diet.
Hmm.
Other grains like farro and quinoa and barley and bulgur and buckwheat are also kind of some options. Are there any others that you can think of that you might like have in your um in your pantry? They're kind of just staples that you're like, this will always be here.
No, I think that's just mainly it. Like we keep
Yeah.
a bag of a bag of rice and
Yep.
the brown rice, white rice, beans.
Great.
Um, I would say they're the main, and then
Oh,
a thing of oatmeal, and
yep, great. How about vegetables? Staple vegetables you kind of have around, whether it's your freezer, whether it's in your fridge is like perishable, right? So those can't really, you can't, you know, necessarily
like
have, but
yeah, like the cans,
yeah,
like
cans are frozen. Yep.
yeah. I don't really buy frozen, but just mainly cans like corn, so that I can add that to my tuna. Um, and the tuna, they're in
Hmm.
cans. Um, like tomato sauce,
Hmm.
um, are the main. Sometimes I'll buy like the French green beans.
Yep. Yeah.
Hmm.
What do you know about the difference between, like, say, a frozen option and a canned option?
Maybe the taste, because
Okay.
sometimes the frozen will. Maybe I'm not buying the right kind, but like it just doesn't taste fresh.
Oh, it doesn't taste fresh, but a canned one does to you?
I mean, it tastes a little bit better. I don't know.
Okay. Um, they definitely have different textures, right? Very, very different textures. Frozen ones are usually just like frozen right soon after they were picked. So nutritionally wise, they're pretty great. Canned ones, again, if you like the texture of those, because they're usually softer and stuff. If you like the texture of those, the only thing we want to be careful with is the amount of salt that's added into, and that's maybe where the taste thing is kind of different because there's can be a lot of salt in the canned ones. So I would say start looking at your cans to see, is this an unsalted variety? If it's not, and obviously we're not going to have you throw away. I'm not recommending you throw away food, but if you're starting to like incorporate maybe some lower sodium or some no added salt canned products, um, until you are use up kind of the stuff you've already bought, you might try to rinse off the liquid that the whatever the vegetable comes in or a product comes in, and then rinse it off, and you'll decrease the salt content pretty significantly. In beans, it's about 40%. So it can be quite a bit that you rinse off and get rid of some of that salt. So that's also an option too.
Yeah, for the definitely the everything like the corn, the tuna, I'll remove the liquid for those, and then like if French green beans, I'll
Mhm.
remove. But I mean, the tomato sauce is different.
Sure, tomato sauce is harder, but a lot of tomato sauce comes with no added salt. You can
Hmm.
buy no added salt ones. And then that
Yeah.
rinsing part on those other things that you can obviously rinse, you can't rinse tomato sauce, it's all gone. Um, so rinsing really gets rid of a lot of that extra salt. So adding that extra little step can be really helpful too.
Yeah.
Um, how about your staple protein sources? You mentioned tuna. What other
Hmm.
things do you have kind of in your pantry for, or even in your freezer of staple protein sources? You mentioned beans too. You already mentioned beans. Canned tuna and beans are your two things.
I would say those are the main things. I can't think of others. Because of course I have frozen chicken in the freezer.
Okay. Yeah, that's another
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
yeah, but can't think of others that I have like in cans, like tuna, and then I have the beans.
Yep.
Lentils? Do
Yep.
lentils?
Lentils count too. Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. And some
Yeah.
people even have like that canned chicken, so they can use that in recipes, like, something else. Some people even have some frozen shrimp that are in their freezer. I know you're not going to do fish, but frozen shrimp.
Mhm.
Some people might even have some alternative, like veggie patties, alternative meat things, veggie patties or things like that. And even tofu or tempeh isn't some other. other options. So again, just trying to think about like having some staple things around that like can, if you didn't get to the grocery store, something happened, maybe you were out of town for the weekend or whatever, and you're like, okay, what can we pull together for the next day or two until I can get to the grocery store? You know,
Yeah.
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 Okay. And then the last thing to is like kind of things to have around are like nuts and seeds and including nut butters. And so having, you know, nuts and seeds as part of your kind of staple options are really good ideas to add nutrients to different dishes like oatmeal, like smoothies, like your yogurt parfait that you enjoy. Salads are also great options. So having different products around. And then when you're looking for like nut butters, you're just looking for something that just has whatever the nut is and then salt in it. So not any additional ingredients. Because that means that there's maybe saturated fat in there might be sugar in there, there's thickeners in there, there's a lot of stuff that aren't really benefiting us much.
Mhm.
So that's another option. Do you have any nuts or seeds around?
Do the chia seeds count?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I usually buy like just a bag of trail mix with omega-3
Yep,
with, has a mix of walnuts and all of that. I like to snack on that.
great. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is our pantry, just to kind of how to, let me share this. Now, I will say that not everybody's pantry is this organized, but
Hmm.
you can kind of see in this example pantry of like having some of those canned products that we had talked about. You know, I think there's beans and there's lots of beans in there. There's some sauces in there, some tomato sauce as well as some like veggie broth. And then we've got some different grains and then some nuts and seeds on top um and so those like thinking about all the options. Again, this is not necessarily how everybody's pantry looks, but so you had mentioned if you were to think about like if you needed to pull together an a meal from your pantry, how confident do you feel in being able to do that?
Probably maybe a 70 or 80%,
Okay.
but I feel like I try to have like almost everything that's there here. Like I need to have that spaghetti sauce, the
Yeah.
noodles. My noodles are still in boxes and not in containers.
That's okay. Like I said,
Um,
not everybody's listening.
yes, and then some vegetable broth
Mhm.
and then my beans are still in bags and the rice is still in, the bags and stuff,
Yeah,
but it just looks just a little bit different. But I try to have, things that go together that I can,
great. Perfect.
yeah, that I
So
can
tell
use.
me about your beans a little bit. You buy the dried beans and then you soak them and stuff.
Hmm.
How do you do that ahead of time? Do you do that as part of your prep? Like what do you do there? Because obviously it takes a little bit of time in most instances.
Yeah, so we usually cook those during the weekend, and I used to use a pot because that was the way I learned how. But
Yeah.
now I use my crock pot, and I'm
Oh,
like, oh
you
yeah,
do.
I don't have to worry about it. I just put some water, wash the beans, throw them in, add the salt when it's time, and so just usually the weekends, and that way we can add the beans to whatever foods.
Awesome. Awesome. And do you end up using those beans throughout the week or do you freeze some of them or?
Yeah, we use it almost every day, and then we just put it in the refrigerator, and
Yeah,
then
great.
yeah, usually we eat it all.
Great. That's awesome. No, super great. Cool.
Mhm.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about dining out. And you had mentioned it seemed like a lot of your out occurs on the weekends because your husband doesn't want to cook when you've just said this is your job. So for people who eat out infrequently, like less than once a week, that doesn't seem to really impact negatively people's health. But if they eat out more than once a week, then that does tend to be kind of can have an impact. Just because the portion sizes tend to be quite large. There is a lot of salt in the products that when we're eating out. Like I haven't found any products that are low in salt when, if you look at a menu or anything like that. They use a lot of butter and creams and because they want their stuff to taste good. So in your opinion, how impactful do you feel like eating out um, impacts your health?
Um, well, usually we try to eat like, breakfast and maybe lunch at home.
Hmm.
And sometimes we'll have, it depends, sometimes lunch or dinner out. So it's not like all day we're, so
Sure.
I don't think, it could be better, but I mean, we both just don't love to cook,
Yeah, I
And
get it.
so that's, it can be better, but it's not like, you know, affecting like a lot. Like,
Okay. Yeah. So when you think about like eating out, if you were somebody who eats out like once or twice a month, right? That frequency, um, you might think, oh, well, I really eat out really infrequent. So when I'm eating out, I might be a bit more liberal with what I'm getting, right? Like I might just say like, oh, well, I'd enjoy this and this, right? But if it's more frequent than that, then there's some tips about like how do you make your eating out experience not negatively impact your health for as little as possible. And so that might be you don't go when you're super starving, right? Because if you're super hungry, then that's kind of a recipe for disasters. You might kind of think about um, what do I really want versus what is like just an added thing that just kind of comes with the dish, right? So like I really want this and it comes with this, so I'm going to eat both of those things, but there's probably options that you can have a different side kind of a thing, right?
mhm, mhm,
You might just decide you're going to be super knowledgeable about where are we going and what can I get here that I feel like, oh, that's going to taste good. I'm not going to feel overstuffed or uncomfortable from this. And I feel like it's got a good balance and I'm adding in all those different food groups and stuff into that. And then maybe you've identified that, you're going to pay attention to like we're going to go over hunger cues in just a second. um, and those hunger cues, have you ever heard of that before or seen
no,
anything? Okay,
mhm,
so hunger cues are kind of like a scale of hunger. And so that is like a 0 is like you're about to pass out. You are so hungry, right? Like you haven't eaten for a really long time and you are just feeling horribly sick. And the 10 is you are painfully full. You are like, I cannot, I've just got to lay here and I'm so uncomfortable, right? So there's a lot in between that. And
mhm,
we want to try to live in that range from 3 to 7, right? So 3 is I'm feeling hungry. I'm a little bit hungry. I'm ready to eat, but I'm not ravenous, right? I'm not that hangry stage where I'm like everything's gonna look good and I just can't get enough. And then 7 is I'm kind of comfortable, right? Like I don't have to bust a button open in my pants. And so really focusing on when we're eating out, especially because portion sizes are larger typically. focusing on kind of that range of like, okay, I really want to stick in between that 3 and 7 when I'm eating out. And that can also be kind of a tip when you're going to go out to eat, just because of knowing kind of the portion that's served at a lot of places. What do you think about this?
It's a good visual.
Yeah.
So yeah, I usually try not to go below the three
Yeah.
because um, I can snack on the trail mix um, and I haven't felt like this in a long time, but like with low blood pressure or like, when I'm super busy and I'm running
Oh.
around and I get low blood pressure and dizzy if I don't eat well or if.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I haven't felt like that in a long time. And
Good.
I just try if I'm hungry then and try not to skip,
Yes. Yes.
lunch. And I know some people can do that, but I'm like, nope,
I do
I don't
not
want to
feel good.
faint. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to faint. And I'm like, I can't skip.
Yeah. Good. Good, good, good. Um, so tell me a little bit about do you ever eat out at like Mexican restaurants where they have the tortilla chips on the plate on the table, or like an Italian restaurant where they have the bread that's on the table? How do you how does if you've experienced that, what do you feel like has been your experience with having kind of those things um on the table already, as kind of the pre-meal kind of thing?
Um, I mean, I'll just have a few, a few chips, or while we're waiting, it's in front of you. And then
Yeah.
if I go to Texas Roadhouse, one
Oh,
biscuit
yeah.
or, you
Yes, the
know.
biscuits. Yes, there. Yeah.
Um, but and some people get like appetizers. They order appetizers before their dinner, and I mean,
Yes.
I don't do that. So I just eat a couple chips, maybe just one bread, well, and then wait till I get my dinner. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really challenging to have that food sitting in front of you, right? And then we often don't account for, oh, I already ate this. Again, this comes back to like, oh, I came in really hungry, and so, oh, I'm so hungry, I've got to eat these things, or it tastes really good, or I'm just kind of not paying attention. And then we eat our meal on top of that. And then
hmm
that is just very, very challenging to kind of have that mindful, like paying attention to your hunger and fullness, right? Because then maybe you only need a couple of bites of your dinner before you're like, oh, actually, I'm kind of full, right? And then it kind of feels like, oh, wow, why did I do that? But so really, paying attention to that hunger and fullness, it sounds like you're pretty in tune with that because you have some fairly strong symptoms when you don't eat for long periods of time and you don't want to get to that point where you don't feel good. Um,
hmm
but and then you also made a really good point too, especially as teachers. Sometimes you might say like, well, it's lunchtime and I'm not especially hungry, but I know that if I don't eat now, I don't get to eat for 4 more hours or something, right? Like often
Yeah.
school doesn't get out. And so then you know that this is my opportunity to eat. And if I don't eat, then I'm going to be in really bad shape
hmm
after school, right?
Yeah.
So there might be that kind of paying attention to what's kind of happening in your day, and especially being in the classroom. It's a very, very challenging side of things for you because you don't have a lot of flexibility with when you get to eat. It's kind of dictated for you. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
used to I used to take a granola bar and eat it before lunch,
Yeah,
but now I'm just doing a lot better where I don't need a granola bar and I can wait till lunch, but I'm drinking a lot of water.
great, great. Yeah, and when you're eating foods that are a bit more satiating, then they stay with us longer and we don't tend, we don't need to eat as often a lot of times. So that's really, really great. Um, when some people eat out at restaurants, kind of going back to that side of things, some of them again eat a lot of like breads and chips beforehand, but some of them also drink alcohol at the start of the meal. And
Mhm.
so what happens with that is that we kind of start to like our inhibitions kind of lower, and then we're like, I don't care how much bread or chips, or I don't care, like how much of our portion size. So if that's something that you like to enjoy some type of drink, sometimes it's helpful to just wait until a little bit later for you to decide, oh, do I really want that drink? Or am I good with whatever, drinking my water or iced tea or something like that? So waiting a little bit can kind of be helpful with the alcohol piece too, because it can really alter how much we eat, and the types of foods we eat too.
Mhm.
So, okay. So the last thing I wanted to go over, and I just pulled up a menu. Are there places, you mentioned Texas Roadhouse. I picked like a brew pub kind of a thing. Um,
Mhm.
when you look at a menu, excuse me, what are things on the menu that would indicate to you that they might be like a little bit more balanced, that they might be lower in fat content? What are kinds of things that you're looking for?
Uh, the first thing is like, what is something that I don't really cook at home that I
Oh,
would like to eat?
okay.
And then I also look at like greens, like salads, like
Yep,
trying to find something that has more veggies.
yep. That's great.
Um, yeah, so first thing is, okay, what is something I don't really get to cook? Like for example, if I go to Olive Garden, I like the pastas, like chicken Alfredo. I don't really cook it much, so I'm like, okay, I'll get that, and then try to, have a salad, something, some veggies, and go from there.
Okay. Um, when you're looking at like just using this kind of example of a menu, when I look at this, like anything that's like fried, so like fish and chips, I know that that's going to be a pretty high fat meal, right? Like, and so and I know you don't do fish, so, but I'm just gonna, or even like the blue cheese and bacon fries, right? So I know that the fries are deep fried, and then it's got cheese and it's got bacon on top of it. So I know that that's going to be a pretty heavy and high in, especially animal fat kind of a dish. Something like the street tacos could be lower, right? I could find a lean protein that's in there, and I could have and they're pretty small, right? Like I choose two street tacos. Street tacos, are pretty small. Roasted, if it says roasted, that's another good indication of something. Steamed is another great one. Alfredo and cream sauces, we know are going to be really high in fat content. And so if you're like, oh, this is a special situation, I really want to have this, it trying to be mindful of like portion sizes and stuff like that. Um, and sometimes soups can be, if they're broth-based soups, they can have a lot of nutrients to them. Salads can be, like you'd said, like really high veggie content to them. And even asking for the dressing on the side so you can control, because sometimes they just really douse
Mhm.
the salads full. And
Mhm.
then broiled is another term that it means, pretty lean cooking method. Um, but anything that like says smothered, that's kind of a sign that it's a pretty high fat and high calorie kind of item. So, and always asking for things on the side. can be super helpful to just like the fish and chips. Like, well, I don't actually want the French fries. I really just like the fish. And so I'd like to have a side salad instead, or I'd like to have, they have apples and stuff because of their apple pecan salad. So I'd like to have a side of sliced apples, different things like that. And a lot of times they might have maybe they have this hummus and pita thing that has cucumbers and stuff and red bell peppers. So there's options of things that they have in their kitchen. So
Mhm.
um, and then there's also in a lot of places you can do a la carte items, so you don't have to do like the whole thing, right? Like you're just like, well, I just want this piece of the meal. So and like you had said, like I don't cook pasta Alfredo sauce at home. So that's like my really, really want this. I
Mhm.
have to have this versus the other options. Maybe I'm like, oh, I don't have to eat the breadsticks or, dessert doesn't matter for me. That kind of
Mhm.
stuff can be helpful. So just thinking about how you kind of make decisions about eating out, again, especially if it's something that's done, on somewhat of a regular basis. Um, so yeah, so what I want you to think about for your SMART goal this week is pertaining to little things that maybe you can incorporate, new ways to find recipes. Maybe it's your eating out plan. Maybe it's eating out and using your hunger scale so that like kind of stick within that 3 to 7. Um, you do a great job of meal prepping during the week, so that, is outstanding. Um, so yeah, so make your SMART goal and kind of write down in your journal how you would kind of start to incorporate little different things. But I know, you already do a really, really great job at a lot of these pieces. So
Yeah, thank
yeah,
you. Yeah, I would like to definitely. I've been wanting to make more of those, those smoothies.
yeah,
And, if I have those ideas, then that can motivate me a little bit more. But just
yeah.
knowing what goes with what to make
Hmm.
it, taste good and make it
Sure.
healthy.
Yeah,
And I also like the idea of looking at the menu when I go out to eat and
yeah.
then, choosing. So I like that idea too.
Yeah, yeah. And it's sometimes scary when you're trying like something new and you're like, I don't know what goes together. But like having confidence, like, oh, I'll just pick one of these, like for the smoothie recipe or the protein bowls or something. It kind of helps to just organize organize things in our brains so we kind of have an idea of like, oh yeah, okay, I got all the components. I'm good now. Or like again, like when if you know where you're going out to eat, you're like, oh, I'm just gonna plan this ahead of time. So I get there and all the smells. I've heard that some restaurants even pipe in smells that,
Really?
yeah, that like kind of
Um,
spur hunger and stuff so that you're
oh,
tempted to eat, purchase more things from them and stuff. So there's a lot, like having a plan before you go is kind of helpful as well.
mhm.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So, if you have any more questions, please ask away. Next week is going to be on rest and recovery, okay? That's your topic for the week. And so Carrie, our nurse, is going to be teaching that one. Super excited. She's great. But yeah, I mean, I know that you and your family do a lot of really, really great work. And it's just kind of like optimizing little things here and there, right? And just looking for opportunities that you feel like, oh, yeah, I can do that change. Just like that time opportunity that plopped in your lap to go to Camel's Back and you taking advantage of it, right? It's just like those little tweaks and taking those opportunities. So doing great.
Yeah, yeah, especially like I don't really like to cook and my husband doesn't like to cook. And so then, but we know we need to cook, so that we can be healthy and have the foods that we
Yeah,
need and for our family. So yeah, we work together
that's
on it
awesome.
sometimes, like during the week. If he has time, he'll help me, or during the weekend,
Good.
I'll chop a couple veggies and yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily a love for everybody, right? But the importance of things and like especially the importance for our families kind of like adds a lot like,
Mhm.
oh no, 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 this is worth it. And
Yeah.
um this is what I need to do for our family and stuff and for ourselves and for our health. But yeah, it's my husband also doesn't like to cook, but I kind of did exactly what you did. And I was like, hey, listen, I'm also working full time and I'm doing
Mhm.
all this stuff. So
Mhm.
he started to help out and just he's found his own recipes and just knows that it's really important for me that we eat, really, really healthy. And so it's been great. They can always expand horizons and and helping
Yes.
each other out helps a
Yes.
lot too. So that's great.
Yeah. Mhm.
Awesome. Well, let me know if you have any questions at all.
Okay.
But keep up all the good work.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good evening.
Okay, you too.
Bye bye.
Bye.